Hello everyone, I'm Laura.
And I'm Anna.
And this week we're going to be talking about girl power in a biblical perspective. So we're going to look at scripture and we're going to see how Jesus treated women. Did he give them a voice? How did he interact with them? And who are the important women in scripture who God used in different ways, their names and how he used them, and what that looks like for us today as women in the church. We're also going to cover patriarchy versus feminism, some hot topics. But we're going to see how all of that looks like in a lens of the Bible and also a lens of grace and identity. So we're so excited to talk about that this week. So stay tuned to hear our perspectives. Thank you.
So starting off, girl power. We're going to be talking about some pretty spicy topics today, so I hope y'all are ready. Whenever we're talking about how to be a woman in this world, it gets kind of confusing, right? When we talk about the role of women in our world, it's kind of confusing, like even historically, and we've touched on this already. It feels like there's a lot of pressure to fall into two boxes, okay? And historically, the world has viewed women from the perspective of two boxes. So the first one is patriarchy. What do y'all think of when you think patriarchy?
I think of Ken from Barbie, where he's like, oh my gosh, guys, the patriarchy.
The
men
Mojo
run the
Jojo.
world. Mojo Jojo
Jojo
Casa
Casa
House.
House.
Like, that's what, like, that kind of patriarchy.
That's what you think of? Okay.
It reminded me of the
obsession with
Revolutionary
horses.
War. I don't know why.
Patriarchy is just horses. Oh, what were you saying? Sorry?
It reminded me of the Revolutionary War. It was just the word.
The word.
I know it doesn't mean
It's
that,
like
but like.
I think I should know this word.
Okay. It feels like a historical word to know. Have y'all heard that word before, patriarchy?
Yes.
Not
I've heard
really.
deny the patriarchy.
I've heard, yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Deny the
I don't know what we're
patriarchy.
denying.
Yeah.
I can't tell.
Denied eagles and horses.
Mojo
We're against
Jojo
that.
Casa House.
Okay, so those are all good thoughts. So there's a lot of definitions. If you were to look up patriarchy, there's not one definition that comes up. But if I were to have to sum it up in just a sentence, it's basically giving power to men, like giving preferential power to men at the expense of women, okay? So it's whenever we think about our past as women, for example, not being able to vote in the past, not being able to hold positions of leadership in the past or even own property, but men were allowed to do that. That kind of society we can describe as a patriarchy, where men have kind of the power to make the decisions, the powers to lead, and then it's at the expense of the power of women, okay? So then, to flip the coin, I know I already asked you what you think feminism means. Now that I've said that, isn't Hannah's definition looking pretty interesting? Because I said patriarchy is elevating men at the expense of women, right? And then Hannah, didn't you say earlier, can you say your definition of feminism that you said earlier?
Where women want to elevate, kind of like the I can do anything a man can do, or kind of stereotyping it for women, like you said, elevated above.
Right. So it's interesting. So we have patriarchy, which is men elevated at the expense of women, and then we have feminism, which is the opposite. Like what Hannah said, it's actually elevating women, and she said this earlier, at first because we were wanting equality, right? The initial attention is equality, but then it turns out that it becomes also at the expense of men. So what are some examples of this? There are a lot of cultural examples. Have you guys heard like future is female? Have you seen those? No?
I've heard God is a woman.
God is a woman, yeah, all those sayings.
Sorry, it's a song.
I know. Yeah, okay. And then the other thing that I think of, a lot of times we think of feminism as something that just recently came up. Like, oh, it's a modern thing. Back then, everyone, lived under patriarchy, and that was just the norm. Feminism is new. We think about that. But actually, if you look back, even in history, do you guys know about, like, the Greek goddesses? So there was already goddess worship, even in ancient history, right? So that's an example of where women were really revered. They were seen as divine and elevated, you know, beyond just being a person, but for their femininity, they were worshipped. Current day, it's interesting because feminism or cultural feminism, what it seeks to do is to give us equality, right? I have to be transparent with you. There were a lot of times in my life where I felt like, oh yeah, I'm for sure a feminist. Like, I'm educated, I'm opinionated, I'm okay with being in leadership. Like, that makes me a feminist, right? Like, because why? Because culture makes it look like that's true empowerment. That's how they package it. But if you really look more carefully, like, they try to package it in being like, feminism is you can be whatever you want, woman, you're so amazing, blah, 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 blah. But if you look more closely, it's really interesting because even within that package of, oh, woman, you're so amazing, there is an expectation still. It's like there's still a mold you have to fit. If you want to be a feminist, you need to do this, make these decisions, or else that makes you less of a woman. Oh, you want to stay home with your kids? That's not very empowering. That makes you less of a woman. Or you want to do this? That's not. You should be doing this to be powerful. It's telling you what it looks like to be powerful, right? And if you dig even deeper, what's really interesting is on the one hand, cultural feminism is saying, women, we are amazing, like we're the best, blah, blah, blah. But then on the other hand, look into it, the qualities that they're championing, that they're telling women is what make them powerful, are not necessarily the qualities that a feminine, like not necessarily feminine qualities. So what I mean by that, they say, woman, you're powerful if you act like this, if you are always the more outspoken one, if you're a leader, if you tend to be even more masculine, that will make you more powerful. So in a lot of ways, it's promising something, but it's not delivering. It's saying, woman, you're powerful, but you need to look like this to be powerful. And oftentimes, the look like this is you need to, in some ways, give up some femininity and adopt some masculine traits so that you can be heard. So that's the other extreme, right? And I mean, this is, I think it's funny that you mentioned the Barbie movie, because that was like, that's a big one. That shows a lot in our culture, right? Who of y'all have seen the Barbie movie? I hear a lot of your sentiments that you're saying, because I watched it too. And there were definitely parts that I was like, yeah, I can resonate with parts of this. There are parts of it that I've experienced as a woman that they showed. They showed a lot of the flaws in our world, right? Because you said it's so sad. They depicted very accurately a lot of problems that true women go through. Like, I'm a real woman. I watched it and I was like, that's true. I do go through some of these difficulties or hardships. These are some things that we face. That they did really well, like showing the difficulties of being a woman. They did very well. But I don't know how you felt, but when I finished the movie, it was like, okay, so Barbie had power, yay, everything was good, and then things weren't good, and then Ken took over, and then in the end, it was like, okay, Barbie, we need to take over again. And that was the solution, right? But then Ken was really sad in the end, and he was like, I'm just back to beaching, you know? Like, I don't have anything, I don't have any purpose. He was sad. So, like, so it showed, like, the movie, I think our culture does a really good job of this a lot of times. It can show us the problem really well. It can describe very well, oh, it's hurtful when this happens. Oh, you know, this is difficult. But then the end, it didn't have a good solution. At least I thought that was not a biblical solution. It's not, oh, we're sad, we don't have power, let's steal it. And then whenever they're done stealing it, let's steal it back. And then whenever we steal it back, next time he'll steal it again. But it was actually very accurate, because that's exactly what happens in the world. Ever since the beginning, and we're going to go back to the beginning, because I'm telling you about patriarchy and feminism, and spoiler alert, none of them are what God had in mind for us. Those two are both extremes, like a pendulum swinging back and forth. And if you go through our history books and you look, or you can read books, or even in your own life, you can experience, you see it swing back and forth and back and forth. Oh, men are in power. Oh no, women are oppressed and we're sad. Oh, let's steal it from them. Yay, women. Okay, men are oppressed. Let's steal it again. Back and forth, back and forth. And there's never a solution. And no one at the end gets the peace that they're wanting. No one in the end feels like, oh, this is what I'm made for. Like, the Barbie song, Billie Eilish's song, it's so depressing. But what am I made for, right? In the end, it's like Barbie felt that way, but then in the end, Ken felt that way. He's like, I have no purpose. So it's back and forth, fighting for this position. And in the end, it leaves no one with the purpose that we were designed for. So I wanted to start with that because that's what we see in the world. That's what we see through history. This is what we're bombarded with every day of our life in culture, okay? And there are real aspects to it. I don't want to dismiss feelings, how we feel as a woman, difficulties. There are true aspects, real aspects in it. But we need to investigate what is the truth. What is God's intention? This is what the world is saying. This is what the world's been doing. But what is God saying? What was his intention from the beginning? Is it supposed to be men ruling? Is it supposed to be women ruling? Or possibly is there a different way? So, let's see. With that, let's go ahead and flip in our Bibles. And guess what book we're going to?
Genesis.
Yes. She already knows. Going back to Genesis, because as you know, our world is a broken place, but when we want to see God's intention, his original purpose for us when he created us, we need to go back to the beginning before the fall. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 through 28. Okay, Abby, could you read it for us, please?
Did we read this last time?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to read it again.
I was like, wait,
Genesis
wait.
what?
Genesis chapter 1. Oh, yeah, you can write it in the verse box.
26 to 28. Okay, everyone, you got that?
Yep. I'm just kidding.
Okay, can you read it for us,
Yeah,
Abby?
I can. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. And God blessed them. And God said to them, "Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth."
Thank you. Okay. I know that we read this last time, but does this not answer the question I just asked? Are men supposed to rule over women?
No.
Are women supposed to rule over men?
No.
What does it say here? What did God say?
To rule together.
Yes. He said he created male and female, and then he said to them. He didn't just say to Adam, "Hey, you rule over everything, including Eve." He didn't say, "Eve, you're awesome, you're a woman, you rule over a man, that's what I want." No, he got them together, and they were a team, and he said to them, "You guys rule together. You have dominion." And then not only that, from that partnership, from their power that they share together, there's fruitfulness, right? Because his next thing is, "And be fruitful and multiply." So it's not only they're sharing and ruling, they're actually multiplying. There's this prosperity that this way of living, which God created, results in, okay? So you can see from this verse, although our history, our culture has gone back and forth, swinging back and forth, we were never designed to rule over one another, ever, okay? We were always designed to rule together. And God always knew that there was enough shine to go around for all of us, okay? There's enough purpose in this life, and he has enough missions for us too in this life, for us all to have a role, an important role. And we never have to feel like we're competing with one another. Whenever a woman shines, it shouldn't be at the expense of a man. And when a man shines, it should never be at the expense of a woman. Is that checking out with everyone? Okay. Because we were always meant to be together, because together makes us stronger, it makes us fruitful, it makes us multiply. It's only the enemy that comes to divide. Okay? And the enemy loves to divide things that he knows is strong. He wouldn't be coming in here trying to mess things up if he didn't know that this original plan of man and woman ruling together was the strongest thing that could be, for like the strongest plan that could be for this world. So he tries to creep in here, and we can see this through our culture, to divide us in order for us to conquer each other instead of unite us and dominate and conquer this world, which is what we were called for. So with that, I want to let Laura speak more into the original intent.
Yeah. Does anyone still need to write down their points?
What are the main points?
I was thinking maybe first
Oh,
one
yeah.
could be patriarchy.
How you say
Patriarchy.
I got
Guys,
it
I'm
right.
so smart.
I actually got it right.
They have some smart girls.
Not me.
And there's probably not room to write the definition, but basically it's just men ruling over women.
Yeah.
And then the second point could just be feminism, which sometimes people define it as women ruling over men, or sometimes it's just
Wait, what was the
women
second
are the
point?
same as men too. That can
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
be a description
That's
of
true.
Feminism.
What was the second point?
Feminism.
It's like they say women are the same as men, but then at the same time there's a lot of degree.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's very confusing. It's like we're the same.
Like
That's what
that
I sent
meme you
you.
sent
Yeah,
me?
I sent her a meme. It was like women are the same as men, but then also men are dogs, and it's like, wait, if men are dogs and women are the same as men, you know, like that's the contradictory thing about feminism.
Starts as a core.
So, kind of like we've been saying a lot, is that it's always about going back to God's original intent when He created us, right? So, if He's the designer, if He's the creator, if He's the one who made male and female, then He's the one who can show us how it was always meant to be, right? And if we're in Christ, if we know God, we can go to Scripture and we can see what God has to say and how Jesus treated women. So it's kind of sad though, because sometimes in the church, if we look, even in churches today, sadly, there's still some stuff that's not exactly as it should be. Sometimes the church over history has kind of taken on the idea of the culture. So even if the culture has patriarchy, the church has kind of taken some of that and taught that in churches. And I'm sure, in the same with feminism, I'm sure there's a lot of churches that preach that as well. And so instead of going to God's intent and really doing the research, because for a lot of this stuff you have to do the research, you have to really dig deep. Instead of doing that, they kind of just take what the world is saying and they put a twist on it. And so we're going to talk more about that when we go into our history lesson in a couple weeks. So what we can really do is go to the Bible, and we're going to go to Jesus, right? Because Jesus shows us how God, because Jesus is God, how God sees women, how God treats women. And empowers women, exactly, yes. So true girl power comes from Jesus. So we're going to look at one of the first stories we have of God or Jesus interacting with a woman, and that woman is his mother, Mary. So we are going to go to John chapter 2, verses 1 through 7, if someone wants to pull that up for me. Maybe let's give someone else a chance this time.
Wait, what were
Thanks,
the
Resident.
verses?
John chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. So what does this story tell us about how Jesus viewed his mom and how he treated his mom? So basically something happens, she asks him for a favor, and he's like, it's not the right time for me to show my power. And then she kind of just tells the servants, like, do whatever he says. Basically just being like, you're going to do what I say.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah. And then
That she trusted him to do what he felt needed to be done. Instead of like urging him to do what she said, it was that she trusted his judgment.
she
That's
trusted
how
his
much
judgment.
That's good.
Yeah. What else?
Believed in him enough to know that even though he knew it wasn't his time, she knew he could do it, and he honored his parents by obeying.
Yeah. it shows that like basically God was saying, "It's not my time," right? He must have had another time. We don't know, but he obviously respected his mom enough, honored his mom enough that he listened to her. And it's interesting because he calls her woman, and it's sometimes you can read that and be like, it sounds kind of disrespectful. Like, why would he be like woman, like that kind of way? But if you could change your thinking, he was like woman. Like he was recognizing her gender, but then he listened to her. So in a way, he was showing like he respected a woman. And that woman was his mother, and that was his first miracle, right? So that's a great way to show how Jesus viewed women, right? And how he honored and listened to his mother. So we're going to look at another story, and this is Jesus interacting with a disciple and also a friend. So there's Mary, another Mary, and she's the sister of Lazarus, right? The friend that Jesus rose from the dead. Is that how you would say it? Yeah. Yeah, resurrected him. Yeah.
It's hard to say because no one else does that usually.
Yeah. Like,
what is it called when you do that?
Verbiage for
Do
that.
that for the friend.
So this is a really cool story. I'm sure you guys have heard it, but it'll be cool to just read it again and talk about it. That's in Luke 10. If someone wants to find that for me, Luke 10, verse 38 through 42. You have these two sisters, right? You have one sister who's like in the kitchen, slaving away, cooking, serving, doing all the things, right? And then you have another sister, Mary, who's just sitting at Jesus' feet, just listening to him teach and listening to him talk. And back then, to a lot of the religious leaders, it was illegal to teach women. Like they taught that, like don't teach a woman, don't let her read, like she can't handle that, right? So Jesus was upsetting a lot of people by just letting women be in the room with him when he was teaching and sharing parables and stories. So based on kind of what we know, which of the sisters was kind of doing the stereotypical women's work? Which sister?
Martha.
Yeah, right. She was cooking, she was cleaning, right? But what sister did Jesus say chose the better thing? Mary, yeah. So he wasn't saying Martha was doing anything bad. She was doing good stuff, but he was saying that Mary chose even better things, right? So what do you feel like that shows about how Jesus sees women and what we can do?
Like they have the same, like they can, if they were taught right, they can have the same like intellectual mind. And I don't think that people, like anybody but Jesus understood that. Because none of them understand. She's meant to be here, so it's a good thing that she's here. She's gonna help you eventually. So she's true.
Yeah, it's really good. That was really good. Yeah. Yeah, he didn't tell her to leave, right? He wanted her to be there. He wanted to teach her and tell her these things. And so that shows us that God doesn't see men as like, oh, only they can be, teachers or pastors. We'll talk about them more next week. But only they can, listen to me or read the Bible. But he sees them equal in that way, right? That they can both learn, that they can both hear from him. And so that's such a beautiful story, right? Of God's heart. And then I guess I can ask the reflection question too. Okay.